Good evening everyone. I'm the storyteller and I'm here to help you today. I know you use this video to fall asleep, so before that, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, where are you from and what time are you watching now? Get comfortable and relax. The Black Smoke. By Black Hollow Stories, in the style of Stephen King. The town of Cross Creek was the kind of place where nothing ever happened. Nestled deep in the woods, it was a quiet, forgotten corner of the world where people lived simple lives. But beneath the surface of its calm, something dark stirred. Something old. Something that didn't belong. It started small, as these things often do. Old Man Haggerty's cornfield withered overnight, the stalks turning black and brittle as if they'd been burned. But just across the road, the Johnsons' pumpkins grew unnaturally large, their orange skins gleaming like wet paint under the sun. People whispered about it at the diner, but no one had an explanation. Then there were the smells. In the old Victorian house on Elm Street, the air was thick with the stench of smoke. Not the comforting kind from a fireplace, but something acrid and choking, like burning rubber and rotting wood. The new owners, the Millers, scrubbed the walls, replaced the carpets, even tore out the old chimney. But the smell always came back. And then there were the shadows. Tommy Grayson was 12 years old when he saw it. He'd been playing in the woods behind his house, chasing after his dog, Max, when the air turned cold. Not the kind of cold that comes with winter, but a deep, unnatural chill that made his breath fog and his skin prickle. Max stopped barking. The woods fell silent. No birds, no rustling leaves, nothing. Tommy called for Max, but the dog didn't come. That's when he saw it, a shadowy figure standing between the trees. It was tall, too tall, its shape shifting and blurring like smoke. Tommy froze, his heart pounding in his chest. The figure turned its head, and Tommy felt its gaze like a weight pressing down on him. Then it moved, gliding toward him without sound. Behind it, a thick, black smoke began to rise, spreading through the trees like a living thing. Tommy ran. He didn't stop until he reached his house, his lungs burning and his legs shaking. When he looked back, the woods were empty. But the smell of smoke followed him home. The next day, Tommy told his parents what he'd seen. His father laughed it off, calling it a kid's overactive imagination. But his mother, Sarah, didn't laugh. She'd grown up in Cross Creek, and she knew the stories. "There's something wrong with this town," she said quietly, staring out the kitchen window. Something buried deep. Tommy didn't know what she meant, but he couldn't shake the feeling that the shadowy figure was still watching him. As the days passed, the strange occurrences grew worse. Cattle were found dead in their fields, their bodies twisted and blackened as if they'd been burned from the inside out. The air in town grew heavy, the smell of smoke clinging to everything. People began to cough, their throats raw and their eyes watering. And then the dreams started. Tommy woke up every night, drenched in sweat, his mind filled with images of the shadowy figure and the black smoke. In his dreams, the figure spoke to him, its voice a low, guttural whisper. Asterisk, it's coming. Asterisk. Tommy didn't know what it was, but he knew it wasn't good. One night, Tommy's mother sat him down at the kitchen table. Her face was pale, her hands trembling as she held an old, yellowed photograph. "This town has a secret," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "A long time ago, something terrible happened here. Something no one talks about." She handed him the photograph. It showed a group of men standing in front of a burning house, their faces grim. In the background, a thick, black smoke rose into the sky. "They thought they could bury it," Sarah said. "But you can't bury something like that. Not forever." Tommy stared at the photograph, his stomach churning. He didn't understand what it meant, but he knew one thing: the shadowy figure in the woods was connected to it. The next day, Tommy went back to the woods. He didn't know why, but he felt like he had to. The air was colder than before, the smell of smoke stronger. He walked deeper into the trees, his heart pounding with every step. And then he saw it. The shadowy figure stood in the clearing, its shape shifting and blurring like smoke. Behind it, the black smoke rose into the sky, spreading through the trees like a living thing. Tommy wanted to run, but his feet wouldn't move. The figure turned its head, and Tommy felt its gaze like a weight pressing down on him. "It's coming," the figure whispered, its voice echoing in Tommy's mind. And then the smoke surged forward, swallowing everything in its path. Tommy woke up in his bed, his lungs burning and his throat raw. His mother sat beside him, her face pale and her eyes filled with fear. "It's here," she said quietly. "It's finally here." Outside, the sky was dark, the air thick with the smell of smoke. The town of Cross Creek was suffocating, its people choking on the weight of a terrible secret buried in its past. And in the woods, the black smoke continued to rise. The end.